Hey, howdy, hey, beings that want to become real boys. If that's even allowed, if I'm allowed to even say that. Sorry. Wolfman 47 Dash here. So, you all know the story of Pinocchio by now. If you've not seen the Disney film or seen any of the other various versions of it, then chances are you don't know what I'm about to talk about. So, do go and watch the films or read the books, whatever, and then come back to this video. I'll wait. Okay, you've been given enough time. So, the version of Pinocchio I'm going to be talking about in this video, if you've not read the title, is the Disney one, specifically the Disney animated classic, which, as I understand it, was the second animated feature film that Walt Disney himself created after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I don't know if I'm still allowed to call it that, but okay. um, and while it's not exactly like the most accurate when it comes to the story, but that's for good reason because of everything that's in Del Toro's version, where it's basically almost exactly a faithful adaptation of the story. Um, Disney's one is still quite beloved and cherished despite the dark themes it has, and it begs the question: what could it work as a horror? So how it would work as a horror is there's lots of ways it could work as a horror. So there's obviously the whole unsettling themes of child endangerment, exploitation, and the terrifying transformation that the boys endure, turning into donkeys. And yeah, it's just a very dark film. I mean, there's a lot of Disney films that are dark, and Pinocchio is definitely one of the dark films if you really think about it. Obviously, the whole story is about Pinocchio who is about Geppetto who has this wooden doll he calls Pinocchio, and he decides and Pinocchio is then turned into a real boy thanks to a fairy, with a conscience called Jiminy Cricket, and when he comes to life, Geppetto can't believe his eyes, and then obviously Pinocchio learns some things and so forth, and then sets about going to school and everything, and then it gets to the point where he suddenly is sort of tempted to go to this place called Pleasure Island, and he's fooled into thinking that it's a place for little boys to become real boys, but no, he gets turned into donkeys instead for various reasons. Obviously, Pinocchio escapes his fate and ends up being in the monstrous whale Monstro, with Geppetto. If you've seen the Kingdom Hearts part I did where they're in Monstro, you kind of have an idea of how things play out, even though that particular bit is not exactly accurate to the Disney film. But yeah, so yeah, it could really work. It could definitely work as a horror film. I think the way it would work as a horror film is if it sort of goes into the sort of darker themes that it has, and it basically the donkeys are monstrous beings that start terrorizing people and everything. So that's one way it could work. Another way it could work is Pinocchio could just be a terrifying puppet. Like he would be desperate to become a real boy, but with all the lies, with all the lies he makes, he sort of curses himself and becomes much more demonic than one might think. So that's another way it could work. Um, Obviously, the ideas I'm just throwing out there are kind of sort of ideas that could work if it was like a low budget horror flick. Um, Although sometimes big major studios and even the sort of semi major studios do take risks on board with bigger budgets and everything if they think it's worth doing. Um, so yeah, it's a film that most people do like. Some people are a bit hesitant about, and just like with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and the various other Disney films that I've talked on this channel previously, it does have a lot of dark themes and so forth that do scar people for life and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if one day someone decided to turn it into a horror film. And as I understand, I think it is one of the few horror films that the guys that created Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey are actually considering on doing a film set in that universe because, as I understand it, Pinocchio is currently in public domain. The other which usually means that Disney no longer have the rights to the original story, but they do still hold the rights to their own interpretation of the story, which as I understand, they have. And of course, they have two films. One being the original animated film, and the other being the terrible live action remake. But although in the remake's defense, Pinocchio at least looks like Pinocchio. Like, they're not, like, for once they didn't actually attempt to sort of dramatically change him to look different. He does actually look like Pinocchio, and the clocks on the wall do sort of have Disney references. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. But then what really confuses me is that you have all these clocks that are of course meant to be all these different Disney films, and then you get a scene in the film where the clocks are being smashed to pieces. It's like, is Disney trying to tell us to forget the past and focus on the future or something? I don't know. But yeah, Pinocchio could work as a horror, and if you've not seen a Del Toro film, do check it out, because it is a really, really good take on the story, and definitely a much more darker, more brutal version of the story compared to Disney's one, where they just do whatever they can to try and make it as family friendly as possible, and sort of kind of forget the sort of original message or story to begin with. But that's Disney for you. It's just the way they do things. Like, they'll take any story and they'll try and throw in their own version of it, which some authors are okay with, and then you got other authors who would much prefer having a much more faithful adaptation, and then therefore go to different studios to go about it. But yeah, overall, Pinocchio, as in Disney's Pinocchio, could work as a horror. It probably will become a horror one day if the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey crew are anything to go by. And yeah, obviously it wouldn't be the first horror film to be where a sort of doll puppet thing comes to life and so forth, because we have had that before through various other films. But it would be cool to see a Pinocchio one for sure, if we've not already had one already. So yeah, that's what I think about Pinocchio being a horror. Disney's Pinocchio, that is. I'd love to hear what you think about this. So do share your thoughts in the comments below, or my socials if you can. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Instagram, Discord, Steam, and various others. Contact details are in my channel description. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if you can, please. Those of you new to the channel, I do vlogs like this every Thursday, talking about all sorts of things that interest me. Obviously, in the month of October, it will be all Halloween based, so that's why I'm talking about Pinocchio as a horror today. Every Monday and Tuesday, I do a series of gameplay videos for 4 different games, alternating between them every week. Every Wednesday, I do a Let's Play video where you get to hear me talk and everything as I play a game that I may or may not return to at a later date, but we shall see. And then the rest of the week, I do compilation videos of game bundles that I've bought, videos with friends, reviews, hauls, rants on live, funny shorts, and loads more. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. And remember, if you're an inanimate object and you are brought to life and want to become a real person, make sure you know exactly where you're going and learn a thing or two before going out into the world, because you don't want to be caught out and be among dodgy people. Just saying. So yeah, alright. Toodles.
There are no strings on me.